Sisters, inshallah, I'd like to address another issue today. As we've been doing for the past few Wednesdays, I've decided to address a number of different issues on which there tends to be misconceptions, misunderstandings, frequently asked questions, if you will. And today, the issue that I wanted to address in about 10 minutes, inshallah, is the question of for our sisters. Really, this is a question that comes a lot from sisters. And that is that while they are in the middle of their monthly cycle, is it permissible for them to recite the Quran? As you know, brothers and sisters, this is something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created women with, that once they hit a certain age, after that age, every woman has this monthly cycle. And the duration of that can vary, anywhere from a few days to several days. And so the question that arises is it permissible for a sister to recite the Quran during that time? And the answer to that, brothers and sisters, is, first of all, that there is a difference of opinion on this issue. There is a difference of opinion on this issue. The ulama are not agreed on this issue. Okay? Even within the four schools of thought, the Hanafi school, the Maliki school, the Shafi'i school, and the Hanbali schools, even within these four schools of thought, there are two opinions. Now, there is a majority opinion and there is a minority opinion. The majority opinion is that it is not permissible for a sister during her menses to recite the Quran with her tongue. We're not talking about touching the Quran. We're not talking about that. We're just talking about reciting the Quran with the tongue. And we're also not talking about reciting the Quran in the heart. Because you can recite something in your heart with your mouth closed. That anybody can do. There's no issue there. A sister in her menses can recite the Quran in her heart. Everybody agrees on that. There's no difference of opinion on that. So a sister who is in her menses, if she keeps her mouth closed, and let's say she wants to review the Quran, right? Or she has the Quran open in front of her on a screen or a book of tafsir or a tablet or something like that, right? Or even a mushaf, she's not touching it. She has the mushaf open and she looks at it, looking at it. There's no problem looking at it, right? And then reading it with the eyes, not the tongue, there's no problem. And then reciting it in the heart, no problem there. The issue is only with the tongue, right? With the tongue. This is where there are two opinions among the four schools of thought. The majority opinion is that it is not permissible to move the tongue with the recitation of the Quran. Whether you recite loudly or silently, doesn't matter. It is not permissible under any circumstances while the sister is menstruating, until her menses finish. It is haram for her to recite moving the tongue during that time. And this is the view of the Hanafi school, the Shafi'i school, and the Hanbali school. Okay? But there is another opinion. And that is the opinion that is not some unorthodox, shadh, aberrant view outside of the four schools of thought. No. It is a valid view. The view of the school of Imam Malik, rahimahullah ta'ala. And you know that the four schools of thought are equally legitimate in Sunni Islam, right? We know that. All four schools of thought are equally legitimate in Sunni Islam. The Maliki school is the primary school of thought that is practiced in West Africa. Anybody who travels to Morocco or Mauritania or one of the West African countries, any masjid you go to, everybody in the masjid follows the Maliki school of thought, and other parts of the Muslim world as well. So the point is that we're not talking about some small fringe group of people. No, the Maliki school, which is just as equally valid as the Hanafi school or the Shafi'i school or the Hanbali school. And it's not just the opinion of one scholar in the school. It's not just the opinion of Imam Malik. It's the school as a whole. They say that it is perfectly permissible for a woman in her menses to recite the Quran with the tongue. Now, we're not talking about touching. Touching is a separate issue. Just moving the tongue with the recitation of the Quran. Any Muslim woman who is menstruating may do that. There is no problem with that whatsoever in the Maliki school. Now, this is not just the opinion of the Maliki school either. You find some scholars in the other three schools also having this opinion. So for example, in the Shafi'i school, this is actually one of the two opinions of Imam Shafi'i. In the Hanbali school, this is one of the two opinions of Imam Ahmad. And this is the view of Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah ta'ala. And others as well, and some have said even Imam Bukhari held this view. So there are two opinions on this issue. Now, why are there two opinions on this issue? The reason is because there are some ahadith that clearly indicate that a menstruating woman should not recite the Quran. There is a hadith like that, for example, in Tirmidhi and Abu Dawood and others. Clear hadith. لا تقرأ الحائض القرآن. It's not allowed for a menstruating woman to recite the Quran. Clear hadith. But the hadith is weak. And everybody agrees that it's weak, because it has a narrator in the chain that is not reliable. And similarly, there is another text that is attributed to Sayyidah Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha, in which according to this text she said that a woman can recite the Quran at any time. Doesn't matter what time of the month it is. That also seems to be a very clear text, but that's also weak. So there are weak texts on both sides. So both sides have tried to reason using other, scholarly guidelines that are there, and they've come to do two different conclusions. So this is a matter of difference of opinion. Now, what should we do when there is a difference of opinion on an issue like this? When there are some ulama that say this, and some ulama that say that. And this is a broad topic, but I'm just summarizing it in a nutshell. You see, when there is a legitimate difference of opinion, and underline the word legitimate, meaning that this is a difference of opinion among scholars that are well known, well established, accepted by the entire ummah, and where each side has a strong evidence. Each side has a strong evidence, strong argument. Whenever there is a legitimate difference of opinion among the ulama, then we may follow any opinion. We may follow any of those opinions. And it is about this that the ulama say, al-ikhtilafu fil ummah rahmatun wasi'ah, that the differences of opinion that exist within this ummah are a token of, or an expression of divine mercy. They're an expression of divine rahmah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is a rahmah of Allah that He has allowed for there to be different opinions, so that if we find ourselves in a certain situation where one opinion is too difficult to follow, we can follow another opinion without any issue. So for example, a sister who, mashallah, she reads the Quran every day. Every day she reads the Quran, right? But then when that time of the month comes, she feels deprived of that. And then she loses that habit, and then it's hard to restart that. You know, when you're on track for something and then there's an interruption, it's hard to restart that. Or let's say if there's a sister who's memorizing the Quran, and she needs to review every day. But then her menses start. Now what is she supposed to do? She doesn't recite for 7 days, 8 days, 9 days, 10 days. And then, you know, it's hard for her to start her review again. So for these sisters, for example, alhamdulillah, there is an opinion that is a valid opinion that allows you to do that without any issues. You see? So whenever there's a difference of opinion on an issue, it is permissible for us to follow any opinion, number one. And number two, it is not allowed for us to say to somebody who is following a different opinion, you're wrong. La inkara fi masail al-khilaf. It's not permissible for me to say to you, if I follow the Hanafi school, for me to say to you, you follow the Maliki school, you're wrong. I can't do that. Because both opinions are equally legitimate, you see. However, at the same time, no doubt that when there is a difference of opinion, we should also try our best to follow the opinion that is the safest. That is the safest. So if there's no need for a sister to recite the Quran with the tongue during her menses, then it's safer for her to follow the majority opinion, no doubt about that. She can do other things at that time. She can do dhikr of Allah Azza wa Jal. She can make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. She can read the translation and tafsir of the Quran, benefit from studying the Quran during that time, for example. Or, like I said, she can simply look at it with her eyes and with her heart, she can recite it, but without moving the tongue. If she does that, then she's on the safer side. But definitely, if she wants to follow the other view, then there is no problem with that either, inshaAllah ta'ala. This is about reciting the Quran with the tongue. As for touching the Quran, then we'll talk about that probably next week, inshaAllah. Jazakumullahu khairan. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.